And we're live. Welcome to Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and thank you so much for joining us for our unique podcast community where we explore the triumphs and challenges of the performing arts world as seen through the eyes of distinguished colleagues. And thank you so much for helping us grow. Today we hit 2,060 subscribers. That's really incredible. We're thrilled to be there. And please remember to like us, or like our videos, and subscribe. We really appreciate that very much. It means more to us than you can know. So here on Music Matters, we do interviews with great artists and talk about people who are doing great things in the field. And we're here to make some interesting things happen. And thank you so much for being here. We have a great guest today. We have Mr. Stefanos Koroneos, certainly no stranger to Music Matters. He's been on several times and is a delightful artist and administrator and runs a wonderful company, Teatro Graticello in New York City, and is doing some great work with this Don Giovanni production, which we're going to talk about tonight. So we're going to talk about reinventing Don Giovanni. Welcome, Stefanos Koroneos.
Good to see you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of each other these days.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
There's no collaboration like a conductor and a director. I love that. As a conductor, personally, I love the connection with directors and stage people. There's so many interesting points. Like there's nothing like opera to dig in with different disciplines and to work and make great things happen.
You know, I was just thinking now that you said that many people don't realize how much work it goes before the production, especially how many phone calls, Zoom meetings, and in-person meetings between a conductor and a director, and how much. I was a singer until a few years ago, and I never really thought until I started doing what I'm doing right now, how many months before a conductor, a director, and a creative team, together with the administrators, have to start working in order to be able to accomplish everything and be ready when the artists arrive for first day of rehearsal.
Isn't that the magic, though? The pre-planning makes the success happen.
I must tell you, I love it. I just love it. I think I'm born for that. So I'm I'm good to go and happy that I'm doing it with you.
So we're about to embark on Mozart's Don Giovanni, which premiered in 1787, and I would say is one of the great masterworks of the lyric stage. What is it you like about Don Giovanni?
Well, the first thing that I like about Don Giovanni that has always fascinated me also as a singer is that the libretto is based on a play, a very famous play, scandalous play, Don Juan by Molière, that was a scandal when it first premiered, and it was heavily censored the second night. The second night, the people who went to the theater to see this very scandalous play heard only a part of it, because in one night, censorship worked very hard to practically cut all the parts that they didn't like. And it was mostly a farce on aristocracy. But what is important about this history, about this libretto, is that it's timeless. You can take this libretto, you can take this story together with the incredible music that we all know that Mozart wrote, and you can take it and place it in anything you want and make it into a story that fits your vision, your needs, or maybe a specific niche in the history of music.
Yeah, I find this so fascinating that this piece was premiered in Prague, and Prague didn't have as heavy a censorship as Vienna did, where Mozart was living and writing. So when he was done finally in Vienna, they actually cut La Libertà out. They cut some of the pieces out because the censors were much more active in Vienna than they were in Prague.
Yes, and I mean the opera doesn't have all the characters that Molière created, but it has Don Giovanni, Don Juan, obviously, Leporello, who has another name. It has Zerlina, who has also another name. And Zerlina is not an ingenue, but it's a very clever, intelligent woman. It has Mazzetto, and it has Donna Elvira, and it has some very particular roles, personas, such as two brothers of Don Elvira who want to chop Don Giovanni, Don Juan. It's an incredible play, and I think that that's what excited me more at the beginning, because I have practically studied that play for such a long time that and that then Don Giovanni made sense to me.
What roles did you play as a singer?
Leporello. I was a character baritone, and I did a few productions as Leporello.
Tante parole. There's so many words for Leporello.
Yeah. I mean, I the role is very interesting and very important. It's a very important role, especially for who, um, uh, in my X category, because I do not sing anymore. S- Sings character parts. Can also be sung by people, by singers who do not do only character roles, and it's an incredible, good, and fulfilling role for any singer.
As a conductor, as a musician, and a lover of Mozart, I love to conduct the symphonies, and
Mhm.
I've done Don Giovanni several times. I'm always fascinated by the hybrid nature of this opera. It is both an opera seria and opera buffa in an incredibly wild mix of the two.
Yes, that is correct, and it has a lot of subtext, and this is what uh, makes it serious or makes it buffa and funny. Is what you make out of especially the recitativos, and Mozart certainly had fun with that, and hopefully we will do the same during production.
Well, I'm very excited to bring this to the Light Opera of New Jersey, and this is the first time this production is being done in New Jersey. But the production that you have designed, it's been done in a few other places. Where has it been done before?
So this production opened up at the Apollon Theater in Greece, in Syros, in a very beautiful Italian-style theater. Then it traveled to US to the Phoenicia International Festival of the Voice. Then it went back to Greece. That's very interesting. To Rhodes International Festival. We did it inside the Palace of the Magister. It is magnificent medieval castle. And now is coming to New Jersey in February, and I believe it's safe to say that also in June is going to be opening in New York City in collaboration with you one more time, at the Riverside Theater. This is a production that um, has been created. I had in my mind for a very long time this concept that is based a little bit on my memories as a kid when I was growing up, and I was not a very social kid. I didn't have a lot of friends. My friends were my music and my films. I grew up adoring very particular Spanish filmographer, Pedro Almodovar. He was my hero. He was my everything for a few years. And there is a particular film that is called Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown, where uh, Carmen Maura, the protagonist, who is a very lonely woman because her boyfriend has abandoned her for a younger girl, for a younger woman, feels like her life is over forever. And just like Don Elvira, she goes through the motions of losing the love of her life. And there is a very particular scene where she and many other people are sitting on her terrace in Madrid, and they are all drinking um, gazpacho. And there is a certain beauty that is suspended. It's like everybody has put their emotions on the table, and there is a suspension of time, suspension of emotions, suspension um, of life, and that's what triggered me, especially those, I don't know, 40 seconds of the film to create this production, which obviously I work with my team. It's a glass box, an illusion because it's not a glass, it's made out of heavy plastic, where everything unfolds uh, during the opera. So singers never leave the stage. They are always there, always putting their emotions on the table.
It's amazing how different art forms can inspire each other. That's what we do, right? It's how opera has inspired film since the beginning of film, and I love the way that now film inspires opera, and we're seeing that cross pollination.
Yeah, I mean, in my case, when I was very young, my first idea was to become an architect, and I had a very big passion about anything that had to do with design and architecture and art. I'm a very big art lover, so and film lover. So I always kind of go the back way to start a project. I get inspired by artwork. I get inspired by some frame of a film. I get inspired by an image, a photo, and that's what I do.
Yeah, it's amazing how we can find these inspirations, and this production that you've done. It's very vibrant colors. Describe the colors and the vibrancy, and what are you trying to accomplish with that?
Okay, this was a collaborative work between me and my creative team, but it was mainly inspired by two things, by two factors. The first factor is a series of designs by a very good friend who is also an incredible artist. Her name is Lolita Valderrama Savage. She's a Filipino American artist who designed in distress a lot of bulls in a bullfight. She visited one day Spain. She went to see a corrida. She didn't like it. She hated it, and she was telling me that she was so upset that she stayed up all night designing those beautiful bulls. So I chose one of her designs and I turned it into two neon sculpture the neon sculpture design elements, uh, and I think that most people know that the bull is a sign of, at least in Spain, a sign of masculinity and virility. But it's also connected to many, many, many other things. And certainly for Lolita, meant something totally different at that point in her distress. So I wanted to have this element of masculinity being always connected to Don Elvira and to her woes. Um, the other element was a collaboration between me and Tasos Protopsalto, who designed the set. I just asked him for a cage, a golden cage, a cage that is illuminated and is beautiful, but is still a cage. Um, Stylish. Think of high heels and glamour 90s and I don't know, pop culture and Duran Duran and all of these pop images, that they are all closed enclosed in a golden cage. And that's what it came out, together with some other elements that I'm sure people will appreciate a lot.
It's fantastic. I love new spins on the great literature. It keeps shedding light. I love how this we have this conversation with the past where we bring ourselves into great art.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, again, Don Giovanni is one of those operas that you can actually live your let your imagination loose, or live, like in my case, your childhood, relive your childhood on the stage by creating something else. And I think it's going to be something that people, or I wish that this is something that people will remember for a long time.
And the character of Don Giovanni, let's talk about him a little bit. In our politically correct society and in the change of moral values, we take this Enlightenment story, and I wonder if this was a morality tale. We've got this libertine Don Giovanni who has done unspeakable things. He's committed murder. He's a constant womanizer, and finally he gets his comeuppance at the end. What does that have to say for modern audiences?
I think that this is a very good question, first of all. And, you know, uh, the story of Don Giovanni obviously has in our society today some flaws, and I promise you, Mozart watered down a lot the play because I can tell you stories about that play. Um, are there people like this around right now? Yes, there are a lot of them. Um, the morale, though, of this opera is that nobody gets away with anything, because there will always be somebody who is going to make sure that bad doesn't end well. Um, in between, there are many other things that we could stay here and discuss for a very long time. But certainly, yes, you agree with you. Don Giovanni, especially the role of Don Giovanni, the personaggio, is a very controversial one right now.
I love how when you look at the life of the librettist Lorenzo da Ponte, how he was. There's a little bit of libertine. There's a lot of libertine in him as well, and
Hello, yes.
there's a
Yes,
incredible amount of what an incredible story he had. He's basically an opera libretto himself. He was excommunicated from Venice, which wasn't even it wasn't a conservative society, but he was such a bad behaved man. They kicked him out, and then he came to Vienna. Eventually, he got kicked out of there after he collaborated with Mozart. Went to London, got kicked out of there, came to America, and actually opened up a grocery store in Elizabeth, New Jersey, before failing at that and then going back to New York City. But what an incredible story! I just find that incredibly ironic.
for me, this opera is all about the women within the opera, Don Elvira, Don Anna, and Zerlina. To me, they are strong, but they're also vulnerable. They have the moments where they have the downfalls, and they go upwards and they go downwards. And this is what mostly excites me. Excites me to see how within the opera, women such as female roles such as Don Elvira or Zerlina develop from something into something else. But mostly, I'm very excited about Don Elvira, and I want to go back to the film that I was talking about before, Women on the Verge of a Nervous Breakdown. There is a scene at the very end of the movie where finally Carmen Maura caught the boyfriend who is about to embark on a plane to a tropical island with the new girlfriend. And she says to him, to me, it doesn't matter if you sleep with other women, as long as you come back home to me every night. This is something that a lot of women have to deal with uh, every day, not only in their personal life, but also in the professional life. And what it's interesting to me is that this relates so much to Dan Elvira, especially at the beginning when she feels victimized. And I'm very interested always to see how she develops until the end of the opera, where still she tries until the last moment to save him from catastrophe.
The idea of character arc is so important in narrative storytelling. I just love to watch the character arcs. Don Giovanni doesn't really tend to grow in this show. He just kind of he's like I am who I am. I'm not even going to repent. Even when the statue comes back and takes me by the hand and said, "This is your last chance," he's like, "Nope, I am who I am. I'm going out this way."
Yes, absolutely, and this is also a lesson maybe for some people.
Well, art is a good teaching device, and it mirrors our society. And he certainly, boy, he gets away, and it's the music is just so delightful. I mean, it's so great at being both opera seria and opera buffa. Only Mozart can be that tell that much emotion and have that much incredibly divergent storytelling, but still be right on the money. Like it can be funny yet profound at the same time.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you in that.
Even Leporello at the end of the opera, when the statue's there and he's terrified, he's still funny. And you've got Don Giovanni deadly serious, and the statue being the harbinger of death. and he's able to get some comedy even in the most serious moments. I find that only a genius can do that.
Yes, I mean, in my view, Leporello is one of the human parts of the opera. It's the grounding part of the opera, together with some other roles, but he's practically the actor, the performer who connects, who puts everybody together, and uh, this is this is practically one of my favorite roles in the opera.
And Leporello is there mostly. He's got a huge part in this,
Mhm.
and I especially am an incredible fan of all Mozart's ensembles. This is probably one of the, I think, the first composer to really use the ensemble, having everyone sing different lines, different emotions at the same time. Their vocal parts mirroring their action in one of the most grand styles. It's so organic and seamless when the ensembles come in, and they're just there's almost nothing like it.
Yeah, and let's not forget how difficult it is for orchestra, for singers, for conductors. This is some pretty um, pretty heavy stuff for everybody, and kudos to everybody who is able to put together a successful Don Giovanni production, because it's a lot of work for everybody.
How have you adjusted the different theaters you performed this at? I saw this up in Phoenicia, and it was an outdoor setting. That certainly comes with its own challenges, not being in a proscenium theater, and you have many adjustments outdoors with amplification versus in a theater acoustic. So you've done it in several different ways. Is it hard to take a production and to modify it that way?
So this production was designed for a closed theater, because it has the element of the box, which we could not create in Phoenicia Festival of the Voice, because of it was a tent, and it was a white tent, so we couldn't even do light and etc. That said, uh, it has been designed to be able to travel very fast and very lightly, and to be able to be put up in a way that doesn't require a lot of work. Um, so the adjusting part is not as much of a problem as much as the, let's say, the special effects that come with the structure that is based practically on very good lighting. It's all about illusion, and it's all about the actors on the stage and how much can they deliver being on stage for 2 hours with no break. um, so that's the part that you saw in Phoenicia was just a part of the production, only because logistically and technically we couldn't accomplish the whole thing.
But there's something so special about the different atmospheres, and it must be very rewarding to see your work done in many places. Like the Rhodes Festival was also an outdoor setting, wasn't it?
Yes, yes, that was a little bit different because we have been able to create a whole stage there. There we had other problems. We had those. Rhodes is very known for very strong winds, so we couldn't actually hang those plastic curtains the way we thought we would. So we had to get a little bit creative. By we, I mean mostly the set designer Tassos Protopsaltou, who worked his magic. Um, but there it was, we had, first of all, we were lucky of having to deal with an incredible exterior with statues and beautiful castle, and it gets very dark at night. So we have been able to actually create, to mix the surroundings together with the set and the lighting. Lighting for me is a very important component. I get very crazy about good lighting and good. So these two things together, three components together, made the show.
So tell me about the transition from singer, professional singer, to director. What's it like being in charge of the direction and watching it come together and being that agent to bring it all together and to put your view and your stamp on this? What's it like in that seat?
So I think that my years of singing gave me a pretty good idea of what happens on stage, and this is something that I will treasure for a very long time. Um, what as I said before, my first idea about myself when I was younger was to be a designer, an architect, an artist, and I always had this in the back of my mind because I would always um, live the productions where I would sing in as pieces of artwork, if they were well done and well designed. And so for me, it kind of came naturally when I decided, when I got my position in Teatro Catacello, and I made the choice to dedicate myself to run the company as artistic director. It came to me naturally to want to create something to get my creative juices going through direction, but not the conventional direction, but through creation of, I should say, postcards or artwork that is moving and is singing.
That's fantastic, and it's so exciting. I've collaborated with you on multiple projects to watch you up there, and you're so seamless at it too. What's it
Thank
like
you.
working with the many types of personalities you have to deal with in that administrator slash director role, which you're doing now?
Um, it's sometimes it's frustrating, sometimes it's very rewarding. For me, it's mostly rewarding because I uh, first of all, because I love my work. I don't mind working 12, 13, 14 hours per day, and I do it. And I work on Saturdays and I work on Sundays non-stop. I'm totally dedicated. And it's totally another thing. And again, as I mentioned at the beginning, and I want to say this one more time because I have so much respect for everybody who is on the other side of the stage. People don't realize how much work it takes to prepare a production. Um, in my case, I just happened to like it. And I remember also as a singer, I always dealt very well with very logical music. I always sang Rossini, Mozart, and was not never the singer um, who loved singing music that was not very logic. So I guess that part of my brain right now is very satisfied, and I just like order, and I like to plan.
I say that as a conductor, I create order out of chaos. I take all these disparate pieces and I make sure we have one interpretation, and I love that part of it too. And I just love the collaboration with a director, especially a director who's got a great vision. I really enjoy because my part of it's the music, but to watch it on the stage is such a magical thing.
Yeah, I mean, I know your work, and I have seen you working so many times, and I can tell that I'm a big fan of yours too, because exactly you are on one of those people that never stops in front of any kind of difficulty, every kind of challenge, every kind of obstacle. You will work your magic, and you will make it happen. And after all, let's not forget that art is also making art is also this. Um, in other words, yes, in an ideal world, we would never have to have any kind of challenges and everything would be perfect and fall out of the sky. But in reality, it's not like this. And colleagues like you make life easier and better.
Well, I certainly respect the same thing on your end. I watch you what you do, and you make so many interesting things happen. And there's never been a time when the arts have been easy because I was reading about the Don Giovanni premiere, and it was delayed twice.
Mhm.
Once the singers were sick, and once the stage crew couldn't figure out how to do the fireworks and the.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
So it's you just think about it. There's always challenges, and it's so easy not to do art. But we certainly learned that during COVID, when we couldn't do live performances in a traditional way, we've
Mhm.
had to learn, we've had to adapt, and I think all of the arts are adapting to what today's challenges bring. But I think it's important that no matter what, art has to survive.
Absolutely. And I mean, I got my life changed 2 months before COVID because that's when I got, I became the artistic director of Teatro Grattacielo. So I really don't know how it feels to work under normal circumstances yet. On this part of as an administrator, I'm finding out slowly as I go. Uh, but again, I love it, and I know you do love what you do too. So when there is love and passion, I think great things can happen. Things that maybe not everybody will like, but that's also okay.
Well, we're very excited. We have a production coming up at the Light Opera of New Jersey at the Sieminski Theater in Basking Ridge, New Jersey on February 24th and 26th. And tickets are selling fast. It's going to be a great show. Don Giovanni being staged and directed by Stefanos Koroneos. And it's a colorful, vibrant production. You're going to love it. Make sure you check it out. And what are the dates in New York City?
Dates in New York City are 16th, are the 11th, the 16th, and the 17th of June, 2023. We have in New Jersey some amazing young singers, up and coming singers. We have a lot of Chanel costumes and and high heels, a lot of glamour. Same in New York City, and what is important for me to say is that we are here to support with this production um, up and coming singers who are um, the backbone and the future of the opera. Because let's not forget that there will not be opera unless we keep grooming the next generations of opera singers, of musicians, and of conductors.
Amen. And these up and coming wonderful young artists need places to perform. So I'm quite honored to have this place where they can get a chance to be on the stage, to make music in fully staged productions with costume sets with great directors like yourselves. It's an honor, and I can't wait to work with all these artists. A couple of them have sung with us before, like Sushan Kim, who was in our La Boheme last year, and I've worked with him in several other projects, and lots of new artists who I have not worked with yet, and I can't wait to meet them and to see how they inhabit these roles. Because one thing I've learned, and I think I've done like 10 performances of Don Giovanni in my career, every time is different based on the actors and the director and the orchestra and the space. That's what makes the opera so interesting.
Absolutely, absolutely. And think about it. I mean, after 10 years, we could be going to the theater and seeing one of those sopranos who sang with us, or a baritone, or a bass, or a tenor, and feel proud that these now young singers, I want to say kids, but they're not kids, they're young performers and artists. We can feel proud that they started with us.
It's a great feeling because I've had a lot of my colleagues go on to do wonderful things, and I still keep in touch. And I have a lot of them on the podcast. I just love having the conversation. I'm like, Lexi LoBianco signed she had her first
Yes,
contract on one of my shows with New Jersey State Opera and are touring Hansel and Gretel to elementary schools. And we still talk about that. And I knew right then, I'm like, that's a voice. And
exactly.
extrapolate that 10, 15 years and look at where people go. And it's magic. Absolute magic. Anything else you want to say about Don Giovanni? What's the what are some of the takeaways you want the audience to feel after they walk in?
Um, no, I want the audience to just come and enjoy the moment and be at the moment, and then let their emotions take them to wherever they want to. Because everybody has a vision of the world, and the vision of the world conditions the experience, their experience in a show. I don't want to precondition anybody. I just want to say that I want to invite everybody to come to support a wonderful opera company in New Jersey. And God knows how much we need opera companies around the world. And to support um, young singers and young artists that they are in their first steps of their career.
So important that those first steps are some of the most challenging. Those first time singing those roles, because as you do it more often, it gets more comfortable. And roles as big as these roles, they're very large. You look at Donna Anna, Oliviera, Don
Mm.
Giovanni, Leporello. They're long, they're complicated, lots of recitatives. Did memorizing lines come easy for you?
I mean, in my case, I sang mostly Italian operas, and because even though I'm Greek, I lived a very big chunk of my life in Italy. It was easy because I speak the language. It was a little bit harder. I did a couple of Russian productions in Russian, in big roles, and there it took me months. Um, I'm also kind of OCD when it comes to. I want everything to be as perfect as possible. Same with French. It would take me a little bit longer because I do not speak the language. Um, this is something that is very it's usually like this for every singer. Um, I see singers that they do very well with Italian because they kind of speak the language. I see singers that they do very well with German because I don't know, they speak the language, but they don't do as well memory wise in Italian because maybe they don't speak that language. But other than that, yes, I it's a lot of recitativos, and recitativos we all know that they are even more important than the arias, and because it's the thread that connects.
The traditional road is that the recitatives tell the story, and the arias reflect on the since the very birth of opera in the Florentine Camerata in the early 1600s. You had this kind of recitatives would carry the plot forward, and then the arias would reflect on the plot.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I read something very interesting some time ago. Some great artists said that recitatives are not a jump through musical numbers; it's a walk through. In other words, a singer takes you into a journey from one musical piece to the other musical number, and the way through those musical numbers is the recitativo.
I like that.
Um, in our case, I insist a lot. I sometimes a little bit too much. I insist, and my work, especially in this Don Giovanni, is a lot based on recitativos.
Who are some of the directors who most influenced you as you were singing in your career, and what did you take away from them?
Um, I Um, I have worked with a lot of great people. I on the top of my list probably I will have to put Franco Zeffirelli. I did a beautiful Traviata with him at Bolshoi as Barone. Um, it was what I took out from him was his humanity, but also his attention to detail. Details for me um, um, mean a lot. And sometimes, I feel like I have not accomplished everything because of time limits. And I get inspired when I see that a director works with the details and works without trying to change the personality of a performer, but enhances that personality. That happened a lot of times. I saw him really working his magic with all of us, Franco Zeffirelli. Another incredible artist for me, for the totally the opposite reason, is Pierluigi Pizzi, whom I worked a lot of times in a lot of productions. Um, he creates incredible visual tableaus, and this is something that is very important to me. I I crave, I want my production to look like tableaus. That's why I'm so involved in every little detail. Right now, we are building up a Carmen that's going to open in Greece, in Crete, and I'm driving everybody crazy with not the acting part, but the visual part. Um, down.
We're certainly a visual society, and these days with the Netflix and all of these movies being so readily available, the visual is crucial today.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. In my case, I don't know. That's how I get inspired. That's how I work. I get, I get to the emotions through imaginary imagery. I got emotions through art. I got emotion to the emotions through postcards or through anything that runs in my mind, especially when I sleep at night. Sometimes I wake up and I have an image, and then I have
You
to.
sleep at night? I don't see you ever sleeping.
Uh, I do sleep and I wake up very early, and my routine is always the same. I will get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I will take a CrossFit class at 7 in Manhattan that get my juices going, and then I will come home and just practically work all day.
There's nothing exciting as the work in the arts and watching these productions come together. I know we just started production meetings on this production, and this is where the team gels and gets to meet each other. And I find that just as rewarding these days as watching a team, putting together a team, watching them come together and gel, and then when you put it in the theater, watching that happen. This is something the audience doesn't see, but it's such an important part of the process.
I'm growing an incredible love for everybody who works behind the scenes. And I say this publicly, and I have said this a lot of times. I love every single person who works behind the scenes because I know how much work, dedication, creativity it takes for to arrive to the first day of production. That's something that as a young singer or as a singer I never experienced, because I would arrive there and everything was ready for me, and all I had to do is put what I knew how to do. But I didn't really realize how many people have worked in order for me to be there to do what I love.
Isn't it great that that the music we can grow in the music business even at our age and learn constantly? I love to learn. I'm always learning something new, and whether it's I'm learning how to produce a musical theater piece, which is totally different than an opera in some ways, but I think that there's you always can learn, and there's so much in being an artist. You never stop learning.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So come to see us because you will learn something, hopefully.
We're always learning, that's for sure. So, once again, the productions of Don Giovanni are at the Sieminski Theater, Light Opera of New Jersey, and will be February 24 and 26 at the Sieminski Theater. And the link is in the description of this video. Hope you can be there. And Stefanos, so do you have anything international coming up? When's the Carmen open?
Carmen opens in May. It's a brand new production that I am designing right now. I'm creating right now with my team. It's going to run for 4 performances, and then we shall see. It's again one of those productions that I'm designing in a way that can actually be done in other theaters without the expenses of bringing, having to move heavy sets, etc. And then we have our this year is 2023 is known as Maria Callas' 100th birth anniversary year. So Teatro Grattacielo has scheduled La Vestale by Gaspare Spontini, which is an opera that the Italian version of the opera was done by Maria Callas in 1954 and got a lot of attention. This project that will open in New York City in October, and where you are the chorus master, because there is a big, huge chorus. The chorus is a real protagonist in the opera, together with 5 singers. This project probably will go to a couple of other festivals, big festivals in Europe, that I'm not in liberty to say yet. So these are my 2 international outings. I try not to do too much as a director because my main focus is obviously Teatro Grattacielo and the welfare of the company.
Well, thank you so much, Stefan. It's so exciting to see your career growing and flourishing. And you've been on, is this your 4th time on the show?
Yes.
You hold the distinction of being our most
Listen,
guest.
if you remember, I was the first one. The very first episode, if you go back,
I was probably I was so inexperienced, and but I love this idea of just talking to my friends and talking about great things, because I'm blessed to be around some wonderful people and like yourself, and who are doing great work, and I couldn't be any more proud of my colleagues.
We are blessed to have you.
Well, we got great music to make, and I can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much, and I'll see you at the opera.
Okay, ciao, ciao, everybody.
Thank you for joining us on Music Matters with Jason Tramm. Please remember to subscribe and smash that bell icon for the most up-to-date information on our upcoming guests and topics. Check out this Light Opera of the Jersey production if you're in New Jersey or in the tri-state area on February 24th and 26th at the Sieminski Theater in Basking Ridge, New Jersey. Thank you so much, and remember, keep music alive.